How's it going, guys? My name is Franker and welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing our monthly analysis for the month of March 2024. Now, going into March, well, we talk about February a lot, and then we will look at what is to come in the coming months. Hopefully, our technical analysis, our thesis of what is likely to play out in the markets. Now, of course, February was an absolutely massive month. You can see it. It is still the current candle. We're filming this roughly, 19 hours early because I'm going to be busy tomorrow. So we're a little bit early. Hopefully nothing drastic changes over the coming 19-20 hours and this video stays relevant. You never know with crypto, anything can happen at any moment. Before we do jump any further into the video, remember guys to hit that subscribe button. We're currently at 493 subscribers, so let's push that up to 500 and that would be muchly appreciated. So if you do enjoy this sort of content, we post weekly cryptocurrency videos, reviews, things about what is the Bitcoin halving, Swyftx review, all these different kinds of things. So if you do enjoy this sort of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Okay, so starting off with our Bitcoin 4-year cycle. Now, things have gotten a little bit crazy. I made a Twitter post on this just recently, but what we're looking at here, what do the numbers along the top represent? Well, that is how many months, green months, we've had in a row. So if you see how we got 6 here, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then 1, then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, and then 1, and then 2, yada yada yada. If we have a look at where we are now, so you can see that we've been up 6 months. February is going to be, once it closes, is going to be the 6th month up in a row. And if we go back throughout just the last 2 cycles, we can see that the only other time we've had 6 months up was at the literal peak of the, or not the literal peak, sorry, but the initial peak of the 2021 cycle, where we had 6 months up and then basically a 50% crash. Now, and other than that, we've only had, up to 5 months, a couple of 4 months, but it's very rare to get these sort of prolonged green candle periods. So what do we do with this information? Well, we can kind of say that, probability suggests that we need some sort of pullback soon. Doesn't necessarily need to be 50% crash. It doesn't need to be, a multi-month bear sort of period. Nothing like that. It can just be 1 or 2 months down. Because if we go back throughout history, you can see, we have 5 months up, for example, here, and then we just have one red candle, and then it's another 3 months up. So it can be something like that, or it could be, like we were saying, it doesn't necessarily have to be any of these, but 5 months up and then a prolonged downtrend, sorry, and then we've got a 6-month period followed by a pretty major significant crash. Then we got other periods, 4 months up, and then a bit of churning around. So yes, we're due for a red month. Does it even have to come next month? Not necessarily, right? So never say never. There's a first time for everything. Obviously, we can have 7 months up. We could have 8 months up, right? It could happen, but probability, in terms of history, what typically we've seen, it suggests that, maybe it's time to cool off a little bit. And besides the point, obviously, that yes, we've had 6 months up, and yes, it looks like we're a little bit overextended at this current point in time. The other thing is that's a little bit concerning is these news articles that are coming out. All of a sudden, obviously, Bitcoin has hit its all-time high in a lot of countries, or in a lot of different currencies. Not the US dollar, we're still a little bit short, as you can see. But I know that Australian dollar, it just recently hit its all-time high. And then, obviously a bunch of other currencies that aren't quite as strong as the US dollar, that don't hold their value quite as well. And you can see that we've got the ABC, right? Harvey Norman profits, don't worry about that. But Bitcoin surges, right? So obviously ABC, one of Australia's largest media companies, I guess you could say, networking companies, and they're reporting about Bitcoin. Obviously you get your CoinDesk and stuff, Yahoo Finance AU, about BlackRock and Bitcoin ETFs, and the AFR, all these sort of large media outlets are now reporting on Bitcoin, saying it's at $60,000, it's at all-time highs. This is the sort of stuff that we see around peaks. This is where we start to see some, real retail interest in Bitcoin, and it seems like the early stages of us getting a little bit overheated. Obviously, you can go scroll through the news. There's so many articles today, just about, all these different, great things happening with Bitcoin sort of thing. So whilst it's great that, yes, Bitcoin is at 61,000, I've been saying this whole time, we are macro bullish on this channel here, we are saying that, we've likely got a couple years up to go. Admittedly, we were probably a little bit pessimistic about what could happen with Bitcoin, and maybe I'm still a little bit pessimistic, right? But it doesn't really bother me because I've done the majority of my buying, right? I've been buying Bitcoin the last, 12, 18, 2 years, whatever it might be now. I've been buying a lot of Bitcoin, so it's okay to be pessimistic. I'm looking now at when's the next best time to buy, right? And I'm really just waiting for this pullback sort of thing, if that makes sense, where, okay, we've got 6 months up, and we're probably just going to wait now for a pullback to look at our next buy opportunities. Not necessarily looking at selling yet, not necessarily going to be aping it at the top, just waiting for some sort of pullback. Now, in terms of Bitcoin on a daily chart, it almost looks like we're on, a little bit of price exploration here. But really, we're not still quite above the all-time high yet. Last month, we were sitting right around this here, or maybe on this pullback here, and we're kind of saying, we're in a bit of a limbo spot where, if we break lower, then pretty bearish. But if we can hold, that is quite bullish, and holding and being bullish was absolutely the case. Admittedly, wasn't expecting to rally. What even is this? Almost 50%. That's it's been a crazy month. But really, what we need to look at now on the daily time frame, same thing again. Where are we going to pull back to, sort of thing? Yes, we've had these big moves up. So where are we going to come back down to now? Is the real question. I think if you look across the screen, really we've got 69,000 as our overhead resistance, and then pretty well, I guess you're just looking at round numbers like around that like $60,000. So you could say yes, okay, $60,000. Maybe we pull back to here and consolidate before pushing up higher, or maybe we continue pushing up and hit 60,000. Or we could also just break back down and come back and retest a whole bunch of different price levels. That they're kind of like our options at the moment. It's hard to really say at this exact moment when we've got a massive green candle here. I do think we're going to probably, as I've said, start to slow down a little bit over the coming months. But yes, we've had 6 months up, but we could always have 7. There's a first time for everything, right? And that's kind of how the markets can work. But I think it's getting more and more risky to be, jumping into the markets. The higher price goes, obviously, the more and more dangerous it gets to be jumping in. That's why I'm kind of proceeding with caution and waiting for a little bit more confirmation and a pullback. Now, I got proven quite wrong as well with Bitcoin dominance. Now, we've been in the opinion that, we're probably in a transition year for Bitcoin dominance as we look to get further into a bit more of an Ethereum stage in the market. I'm still of that belief, don't get me wrong. So yes, we pushed up a bit higher. We just need to kind of see whether we can break out. If we do break out above these highs at roughly 55%, yes, we could push higher. But I don't think this is going to be pushing massively higher. I don't think the Bitcoin Bitcoin, as we said, is going to be a great asset to invest into, but I think Ethereum and its narrative is going to take over in 2024. Maybe it's going to be a bit later than I would have expected. Maybe it's going to be late 2024, early 2025 that we start to see that Ethereum narrative kind of really pick up. That could always be the case, and that's totally fine. It's not game changing necessarily. We're just looking now at, okay, where are we going to allocate most of our assets? Are we going to be 100% in Bitcoin, or are we going to start now looking at altcoins like Ethereum, strong altcoins like Solana, like Matic, maybe those sort of tokens? That's kind of where I'm heading towards as 2024 continues. And with this Bitcoin dominance chart, let's just see where these few candles close, because obviously we've been looking at this being a bit of a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, but then of course comes along and proves me wrong. But assuming that we don't break above this level, I would still be saying, okay, probably still transitioning towards an Ethereum. But if we can break above, consolidate, then maybe Bitcoin season is going to last just that little bit longer than I would have anticipated. But if that's the case, as I said, I'm still majority in Bitcoin. It's not the end of the world, right? It's kind of how you position yourself. You can still get calls wrong, right, and still be profitable from it, because at the end of the day, I'm not shorting Bitcoin. I'm only longing Bitcoin at these prices. So So being a little bit pessimistic or a bit conservative on my calls is definitely not a bad thing. That's kind of how I view it. If things get a little bit too hot and I, make more money from it, okay, that's totally fine by me if that makes sense. So we're still largely in Bitcoin, and but we're just looking at this 2024 being a transition year for Bitcoin. Okay, now for Ethereum. So we've been following Ethereum for a long time, and last month we were kind of looking at this. We were in this area here, and we are saying, okay, well, we got rejected from the 50%, but the positive thing is that we're still forming higher and higher lows, and that was definitely the case. We formed more and more higher lows until eventually breaking out of the 50% level. So Ethereum is in a bit of a price exploration point now. It's been so long since we've seen, above $3,000. So what do we do with this or where are we looking to next? Well, obviously there are some key resistance levels coming up here. We've got a swing top, in these areas here. That's probably where we are going to be looking at these sort of ranges, and we're getting very close to it. So coming up to this next $3,600 range, kind of looking at, okay, are we going to hit it and break above and consolidate, or are we just going to look to get rejected and maybe just form a higher low? That's probably what's going to happen. We're probably going to form a higher low at some point, right? We have to form a higher low. But probably just waiting now. Same thing again. Where can we buy the Ethereum dip? Because bull markets are for buying. So where can we buy Ethereum over the coming weeks, over the coming months? Well, I'll be waiting to see if 3600 turns out to be key resistance, and if that is the case and we get rejected, then probably going to be buying in around these levels, if that makes sense. Somewhere above, around that mid to low 3000s, maybe if it even comes down to, into the 2000s, still buying. Right, bull markets are for buying. As long as we're not buying at the tops, like where we are right now, that's totally fine. Buy the pullbacks and, looking to basically go long in the market at this point. Now, CRO is a token that we were also, becoming a little bit pessimistic on. I thought after we came back under the 50% level, and I've drawn the big circle on the key rejection there of what I thought was probably a bit of a defining moment for CRO as we got rejected from the 50%, but it wasn't to be. Look, last month we were kind of, where were we? We were somewhere, I don't even know. We must have been down here somewhere in late January. And we're kind of just, we're kind of saying, okay, this is not looking the best for CRO. What we really want to wait and see is where these monthly swing lows and swing highs form, because as you can see, if we zoom out a bit, you can see what we've really been following here. Our thesis was basically, okay, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, higher low. Oh, sorry, a higher high, right? And then what we wanted to see was that lower high come in, and until then, it was basically sitting, not sitting and waiting necessarily, but just being cautious in the market. Same thing again, right? Where now we've kind of formed, okay, we've got a bit of a higher low here. Maybe this is still looking like the last point of supply and the sign of strength as we look to break out above 10 cents. 10 cents is still the key resistance. If we can push beyond 10 cents clearly, get monthly closes, weekly closes above the 10-cent range, that's where I really flip bullish on CRO. Is this the very early stage of that? Potentially, not going to jump the gun yet. It has, proven me wrong already. I was quite worried at this point in time. I thought we could come down and test, monthly swing highs at 6 cents around that area, but it wasn't to be, fortunately. So good signs for CRO getting back above 10 cents. Can we close above that? Because I think with CRO, if once we can close above 10 cents and push higher, then that's when we really start to see more free-flowing price, because you can see 10 cents has just been sort of just the key resistance here, just getting rejected and rejected and rejected, and once we're above that, there'll be a lot more price freedom, if that makes sense. Sol is a token that we have been calling really well. Despite our pessimistic, we've still been a bit bullish on Sol, just because it is looking like one of those really strong tokens in this market that could take off. So what we initially, if we go back on our Twitter and we go back to our original post, we we're basically saying, okay, this is where a lot of, I mean, this is probably a good case study where a lot of tokens are in this sort of position that Sol was in, where we have a massive rally up. This is kind of like Bitcoin, where we're at right now, Ethereum maybe even, where it's kind of, okay, we're starting to pull back, and this is good for those of you that missed the boat. Now what we really want to look at is buying opportunities, buying the dip essentially. And what we're looking at was, we had a major 50% level at $67. I thought that was a bit too greedy, so I kind of looked across at some prior support, and it was around that $80 range. So I thought, okay, maybe start dollar cost averaging in at $80, and if it comes down to 67, then you just keep buying, right? If that makes sense. And that was kind of the case. We came in, wicked $80, just crossed into about $78 before pushing back up and breaking the trend line. That was the first couple of really bullish signs. And then if we go back on our post, you can see that what we were then looking at was a buy the dip opportunity where, okay, we break the trend line, probably going to come back down sooner or later, and there'll be a buying opportunity for Solana, and that was the case. Pretty similar, these two areas here, buying opportunities. And then what we said next was pretty well, looking to continue higher here for Sol. If we can, push up, higher, low, and then push higher again, that would basically validate our thesis, which pretty well played out very similarly. So this is a good case study of, I think, an overheated asset. If you were here watching Solana during this time, Solana was very, very hot coming out of these lows. I mean, the rally was absolutely massive, right? Clearly, from $20 up to $120. We're talking, what is that, 6x in price. Now, not everyone's going to grab that 6x necessarily, right? That's pretty hard to do. But what we can do is look at the next buying opportunity, because as we said, we're in a macro bull market. This is where we look to buy dips. And with our thesis, or my thesis, I should say, of 2024 being a transition period from Bitcoin to ETH and large caps, this is where I'm looking to start to buy in on a lot of larger altcoins. So buy opportunity, and basically we're in almost breaking above. If we can break above this key resistance, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, if you told me now, Franco, I'm taking profits on my Solana position, I'm selling at $120, I would say that's totally, that's a really good move what you've done. You were following these sort of moves up. I bought at $80, I bought at $90, and then I sell at $120. That's like what is that? 80 to 120, that's like a 50% gain, right? So you've done really, really well for yourself over the course of January to February. It's only 1 month and you've made 50%. It's not bad to take profits in these sort of areas either necessarily, right? As we said, not necessarily shorting the market, but if you want to start taking some profits, take some chips off the table, that is totally understandable, because as you can see, we are really, really hot at the moment, right? And when it's really, really hot, that is when you want to, maybe take some profits and maybe start considering, okay, where are we going to next start to buy? Because if we go back, as we said, if we go back to Sol and we go back and we go back, this is where a lot of cryptos are at the moment. This kind of crazy mania stage where, yes, price just had a massive candle up, and now they're just kind of sitting around that same price level, right? And it's probably time for a bit of a pullback. So we're looking at a lot of buying opportunities coming up over the next couple of months. Now, ICP is an interesting token we looked at recently as potentially being in a phase D, looking to break out higher, but it's kind of stagnated a bit. It is still in this big consolidation area. We were looking at this around late December. We were, in this area here somewhere, we're looking at potentially holding above the purple support line. If you have a look across, you can see where that support line kind of starts. Is over here. If we could hold above that, we could probably rally up. Now, admittedly, it hasn't rallied up as much as we'd like. Maybe only 20, 30, 40% maybe, depending on where exactly that video was posted. But the point being, we are still up. It is looking a bit weaker. So perhaps, same thing again. Can we take some profits on ICP? As we are getting a little bit overheated in the market, and ICP is seeming to lag behind a little bit. That's kind of the question we need to ask. So ICP a little bit weaker at this point in time, and pretty, I'm probably just hands off ICP at the moment until I see something a bit more definitive. Yes, still hold. If you bought here and you're happy to wait and see if it can pump up higher. Absolutely, that's pretty cool if it can, but cautious with ICP. I think it's just looking a little bit weaker at this moment in time. Okay, Trust Wallet token is another token or altcoin we've been following. This one is, has been performing quite well as of recent. What we were worried about earlier was these 50% level rejections, but since then we've been able to actually break back above. So maybe if we can hold above this key 50% level here, I think that is super duper bullish. But as we've said, with Bitcoin maybe slowing down, maybe, it could be rejected again. So only time will tell with Trust Wallet. I think a definite buy spot if I was waiting to get into Sol here, not into Sol, if I was waiting to buy into Trust Wallet here, if we were able to come back down to, let me turn this off, logarithmic, to this trend line. You can see if we somehow did, it looks a bit crazy at this stage, but if we came back down to around this level, that is a definite buy, in my opinion. Other than that, maybe if we can just form a higher low, that could be another buying opportunity, but only time will tell with Trust Wallet token. Okay, so the markets are really heated at the moment. As we've been saying for a long time now, we are likely in a big bull market. We've been following our 18.6 year cycle. I think I have a video on that somewhere on the channel. Go check it out. But just proceed with caution at this point in time. We are, yes, it's great that Bitcoin's pumping, but this price movement, especially in February, has been absolutely massive and scary in my opinion. So proceed with caution. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, remember to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.